Iris's life was made of systems. At work, she built them. As a logistics analyst for an international shipping company, she could look at a spreadsheet of thousands of shipments, routes, and delivery times and find the inefficiencies in minutes. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. At home, she lived by them. Groceries arranged alphabetically in the pantry, laundry done on the same day every week, emails responded to in batches, never as they came in. Systems were safe, predictable. They left no room for the quiet panic that came when she had to improvise socially, or worse, romantically. Romance had always been the gap in her otherwise orderly life. She had tried, in the same way she tried any new skill, research, repetition, incremental improvements. But dates turned into polite goodnights, and polite goodnights never turned into calls back. The few kisses she'd had were more puzzling than pleasant. Once, she'd caught herself trying to calculate how long she was supposed to tilt her head before pulling away. It was exhausting, and lately, she'd started to think maybe she'd been going about it wrong. Maybe she couldn't learn on the job, so to speak, which was why she was sitting in a booth at a downtown coffee shop, nursing a chamomile tea she didn't really want, waiting for the woman she'd hired to teach her what she couldn't seem to figure out on her own. The front door opened with a jingle of the bell, letting in a gust of early spring air. Iris looked up. Nora Rivera stepped in like she was stepping onto a stage she owned. Leather jacket, black boots, hair a soft tumble of waves that didn't look accidental. She scanned the room once, her gaze landing on Iris without hesitation. She crossed the floor with a confident but unhurried stride. "Iris?" she asked, her voice warm but edged with curiosity. Iris stood halfway, awkwardly unsure if a handshake or a wave was appropriate. Nora decided for her, leaning down to brush their cheeks in a quick greeting. The scent of her perfume, something faintly citrus, lingered as she slid into the booth across from her. "Thanks for meeting me," Iris said, her hands folding neatly in her lap. "Of course," Nora said easily. "Your message was unique. I don't usually get that much detail from a potential client." "I like to be clear," Iris replied, then worried it sounded defensive. "I just thought, it's better to explain exactly what I want." "And what you want," Nora said, leaning forward slightly, "is to learn intimacy." The words sat between them like a challenge. Iris forced herself not to look away. "Yes. I've had relationships, but they were short, awkward. I don't know how to be with someone. Be with them? In a way that makes them want to stay," Iris admitted. "I overthink everything. I can't tell when something's supposed to be a joke or when it's supposed to be a cue to touch someone. And I hate guessing wrong." Nora didn't flinch at the bluntness. If anything, her gaze softened, like she'd expected this to be harder for Iris to say. "So you want practice, without the risk of getting hurt?" "Yes, and so I don't ruin something later with someone I actually like." There was a pause while Nora studied her, fingers tapping once against the side of her coffee cup. "I can work with that, but it's not just mechanics. We'll have to build trust, comfort. That takes time." "I can give it time," Iris said quickly. "I just need a structure, steps, something I can follow." Nora's mouth curved in a half smile. "You want intimacy like a flowchart?" "Yes," Iris said, relieved she understood. "If that's possible." "Everything's possible," Nora said, sitting back. "We'll start simple. Conversation, space, touch, all at your pace. And you tell me, out loud, when something's too much. You set the boundaries. I keep them." Iris nodded. The clarity of it soothed her. "And payment?" We'll work that out in writing, Nora said. I like keeping things clear too. They agreed on evenings that fit between Iris's project deadlines. The first meeting to be at her apartment, somewhere she could control the environment. When they stood to leave, Nora zipped her jacket and smiled faintly. I'll see you Saturday. And Iris? Yes? Don't overthink it yet. Easier said than done, Iris thought, watching her disappear into the street. Saturday arrived like the tick of a countdown. Iris cleaned her apartment more thoroughly than usual, straightened the books on her shelves, checked the lighting 3 times. At precisely 7, the buzzer sounded. Nora stepped in with the same unhurried confidence, her jacket slung over one arm. She glanced around, taking in the spotless counters and neatly stacked files on the desk. Minimalist, she said. Efficient, Iris corrected. I like it. Nora sat on the couch, her movements deliberate but unpretentious. So, Lesson 1. Conversation without thinking about the next thing you're going to say. That sounds... Iris hesitated. Difficult. That's why it's a lesson. Nora gestured to the cushion beside her. Sit. When Iris did, Nora leaned back, her posture relaxed. Tell me something you like that you've never told anyone. Iris frowned. Like a secret? Not necessarily, just something that's yours. After a long pause, Iris said, I like watching freight ships load at the port. It's calming. The order of it. The precision. Nora's lips curved. That's very you. They went back and forth like that, Nora asking questions that weren't quite small talk, but not too probing either. Iris found herself answering without rehearsing. At one point, Nora reached out, her fingers brushing Iris's wrist to make a point. The touch was light, deliberate. Iris noticed, but she didn't flinch. That's step 1, Nora said quietly. Touch you see coming. They moved on to step 2, sitting closer, knees almost touching. Just breathe normally, Nora said. It's space. We're sharing it. Iris focused on her breathing, on the warmth at her side. She counted to 8, exhaled to the same number until the tension eased. When Nora finally stood to leave, she gave Iris a warm, unhurried hug. You did well. The contact startled Iris, but not in a bad way. As the door closed behind her, she realized she'd already been looking forward to the next lesson. The second meeting was easier, though Iris still prepared for it like she was hosting an important inspection. The couch cushions were fluffed, the mugs pre-warmed, the lights adjusted to a brightness she'd calculated as comfortable but not intimate. Nora arrived with the same easy stride, hair a little wind-tousled. She set a paper bag on the counter. I brought dinner. Figured it's harder to be nervous when you're chewing. The food was Vietnamese. Fragrant lemongrass chicken, rice, vegetables. They ate at Iris's small dining table. The conversation moved between work stories and harmless personal confessions. Iris found herself telling Nora about the time she'd mixed up 2 shipping codes and accidentally routed 20 pallets of winter coats to Singapore in July. That's terrible, Nora said, but she was laughing. I fixed it, Iris said quickly, overnight. Still, that's a lot of sweaty people in July. Iris smiled despite herself. She was noticing something. Nora didn't fill silences just to fill them. She let pauses breathe, like they were part of the conversation. It was calming. After dinner, they moved to the couch. Nora sat a little closer than last time, enough that the line of her leg was a gentle presence beside Iris's. So, Nora said, tucking one knee under her, tonight's lesson is sustained touch. That sounds ominous. It just means touch that lasts more than a moment. You'll see it coming. You'll agree to it. and then you just let yourself feel it. All right, Iris said cautiously. Nora reached out, taking Iris's hand in both of hers. Her touch was warm, steady, the pressure gentle but unmistakable. That's it. No rush. Just notice. Iris focused on the sensation, the slight calluses along Nora's fingertips, the faint rise and fall of her own breath. After 30 seconds, she realized she wasn't cataloging escape routes in her head. You're not pulling away, Nora observed. I'm not uncomfortable, Iris admitted. That's good. Ready for the next step? What's the next step? Nora didn't answer right away. She shifted closer, her free hand brushing lightly along Iris's forearm, up to her shoulder. Touch in more than one place. The combination made Iris's pulse quicken. She told herself to focus on data. Increased heart rate, heightened awareness, no actual danger detected. You're thinking, Nora said. I always think. I know. Nora smiled faintly. Try not to for a minute. It wasn't as impossible as Iris expected. By the time Nora let go, she felt both lighter and oddly steady, like she'd passed some invisible checkpoint. Over the next 2 weeks, their lessons shifted in small increments. Nora sat close from the start now, her arm draped along the back of the couch. Sometimes her hand rested on Iris's knee, a touch so casual it almost felt natural. They talked about more personal things. Nora's time working in a bar on the coast. Iris's awkward high school dance, where she'd spent most of the night helping the chaperone stack chairs. By the 4th session, Nora suggested they try kissing. Only if you want to, she said. I don't know if I'll be good at it, Iris admitted. That's not the point. Iris's first instinct was to calculate angle, timing, duration, but Nora's hand came up to cup her jaw, grounding her. The kiss started light, exploratory. Nora didn't push for more, didn't demand a reaction. It was better than Iris expected. Not because she felt fireworks. She'd never understood that metaphor, but because there was nothing else she had to do in that moment. No performance, just the warmth of Nora's lips, the faint scent of her shampoo, the steady anchor of her hand. When they pulled back, Nora searched her face. What's your verdict? Iris found herself smiling. It's not unpleasant. Nora laughed softly. I'll take that. Their 6th meeting wasn't planned. Nora texted on a Wednesday night. Out near your place. Want to practice lesson 3? Iris hesitated for exactly 90 seconds before replying. Yes. When Nora arrived, she carried no bag, no food. She just came in, dropped her jacket over the arm of the couch, and sat down close enough that Iris could feel the heat radiating off her. Lesson 3? Iris asked. Combination, Nora said. Sustained touch, proximity, and… She leaned in slightly. Kissing without a script. Iris's breath caught. I don't… That's the point. Nora's voice was low, steady. You just follow what you feel. She kissed her, deeper than before. One of Nora's hands found Iris's waist, the other brushing along her arm. Iris didn't freeze. She leaned in, her own hands finding Nora's shoulders, and for a moment, there was nothing but the slow give and take between them. Then Iris pulled back, not abruptly, but with a clear breath. That's enough for tonight. Nora nodded, her expression unreadable, but not disappointed. Good call. That's you setting the pace. Iris wasn't sure if her pulse was fast because of the kiss, or because she'd been the one to decide when it ended. When Nora left that night, Iris lingered by the window, watching her disappear down the street. Something had changed. The lessons were working. But they weren't just lessons anymore. She was starting to look forward to them in a way that had nothing to do with skill acquisition and everything to do with Nora's laugh, her patience, and the quiet certainty she carried into every room. And Iris, who usually clung to her systems, was starting to wonder if some things were better when they didn't fit neatly into a plan. The 8th lesson wasn't really a lesson at all. The text came mid-morning on Saturday when Iris was halfway through reorganizing her kitchen cupboards. "Meet me at the market," it said, with no follow-up. When she arrived, the place was a patchwork of color and movement. Flower stalls spilling yellow tulips and pale roses. Pyramids of fruit in shades so vivid they looked painted. The smell of coffee cutting through the air like a ribbon. It took her less than a minute to find Nora. She stood by a bakery stall, her tote bag already weighted with something heavy. The sleeves of her soft beige sweater were pushed up, revealing the smooth line of her forearms. "You're late," Nora said, her mouth curling, as though the comment was more habit than irritation. She handed Iris a paper cup. "Lavender honey latte. Don't make a face until you try it." Iris took a cautious sip. The flavor was strange. Floral at first, then warm and sweet, the honey softening the edges. "It's unusual." "Unusual can be good," Nora said. She stepped into the flow of the crowd, her hand brushing lightly at Iris's back to guide her. The touch was casual, but it lingered just enough for Iris to notice. They moved between stalls at an easy pace, stopping for strawberries, a round of bread dusted with flour, a wedge of soft cheese Nora swore would change Iris's life. At the flower stall, Nora held a bunch of tulips against Iris's shoulder, tilting her head as if testing the color. "Too yellow," she murmured, setting them back. "You're a pale pink kind of person." Iris didn't know what to do with the fact that Nora thought about her in colors. Back at Nora's apartment, the bags went onto the counter. The space was warm in a way Iris's wasn't. Shelves dotted with plants, art prints leaning unframed against the wall. A blanket draped casually over the back of the couch. They sat on the floor with the food spread across the low table. Sunlight pooled on the wooden boards, catching in Nora's hair when she leaned forward to pour the wine. "This doesn't feel like a lesson," Iris said. "It's not," Nora replied, settling back on her hands. "It's just us." The word made something shift in Iris's chest, a loosening and tightening at the same time. They ate slowly. Nora told a story about getting locked out of her apartment in the middle of the night. Iris about her worst high school group project partner. At one point, Nora picked up a strawberry, holding it out between her fingers. Without thinking, Iris leaned forward and took it, brushing her lips lightly against Nora's fingertips. She tasted the sweetness of the fruit and something else, the subtle catch of her own breath. When she looked up, Nora's gaze was fixed on her, steady and intent. "Can I?" Nora asked softly. Iris nodded. The first touch was the press of Nora's palm at her waist as she leaned in. Then her mouth, warm, deliberate, tasting faintly of wine, finding Iris's and staying there. The kiss began with a kind of restraint, as though Nora was mapping the edges of what Iris would allow. When Nora's other hand slid to the small of her back, coaxing her forward, Iris let herself move. She was suddenly in Nora's lap, her knees bracketing Nora's hips, her hands resting tentatively at Nora's shoulders. The angle made the kiss deeper, the shift in height bringing them closer than they'd been before. Nora's lips moved with unhurried certainty, parting just enough to let the rhythm change. Her fingertips trailed up Iris's spine, pausing when they reached the edge of her blouse, playing there, not pushing, just waiting. Iris became aware of everything at once, the faint scrape of Nora's nails through fabric, the rise and fall of her own breathing, the way the world had narrowed to the inches between them. When Nora's mouth left hers to trace along the curve of her jaw, Iris's eyes closed. She felt the brush of lips at the hollow just beneath her ear, the warmth of Nora's breath. Her own hands moved without conscious thought, slipping into Nora's hair, the strands sliding soft and cool against her fingers. She felt a low hum in Nora's chest in response, and it sent an unexpected shiver through her. Nora's hand returned to her waist, drawing slow, careful circles there, her thumb just grazing skin. It was a question more than a touch. Do you want this? Do you want me? Iris didn't have to think about the answer. She leaned in again, catching Nora's mouth with hers, this time with something more certain in the way she kissed back. The warmth between them deepened, and for a moment, Iris thought about what it might be like not to stop. But she also thought about how much she liked the waiting, how much she liked the way Nora treated every shift in her body as if it were important. When she finally broke the kiss, she didn't move far. Their foreheads touched, breath mingling, her hands still resting in Nora's hair. "We should stop," she said softly. Nora's smile was faint but sure. "That's your call." The next time they saw each other, Iris didn't bother with preambles. "I don't want this to be professional anymore," she said, the words coming out with less awkwardness than she'd expected. Nora's eyes warmed. "Good. Neither do I." They didn't label it right away. They didn't need to. Months later, the market was just as crowded, the scents just as rich. Nora handed her a lavender honey latte without asking. "You're predictable," Iris teased. "And you like it," Nora replied. Iris smiled, and she didn't even need to answer.